listening to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro, the place to learn about new technology and technological advances before they become mainstream. This podcast is sponsored by Ingram Micro's Imagine Next. It's not about the destination. It's about going someplace you never thought possible. Go to imaginenext.ingrammicro.com to find out more. Let's get into it.
Welcome to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro. I'm your host, Shelby Skerhawk, and our guests today are two thought leaders from OpenGear. Todd Rychecki, Vice President of Sales for the Americas, and Brian Keepers, Director of Channel Sales for the Americas. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great to be here.
So today we're talking about network resilience, why it's important and how to achieve it. But before we get into those discussions, Brian, tell us about New Jersey-based OpenGear.
Okay. So I've been with the company a little over 5 years now, almost 6 years. And when I started, we didn't have a channel program, but what we did have is a fantastic product. So to kind of give you the high level view of what OpenGear is, it's not a outdoor apparel, which is something that I get often, but it's all about remote access and infrastructure. So as we talk about IT, and Todd's going to talk to you quite a bit about how our customers are using our products, but at a high level, what we do and the reason that we've been able to be successful is because we allow customers to gain remote access to network devices anytime from anywhere, even if the network is down. And so we do business with 75% of the Fortune 100 companies, and our business has been booming during the current pandemic, which has been fantastic for us. So we have locations all over the world, and we do business with some of the largest companies in the world globally.
Well, that remote access is the name of the game, especially in this decentralized working environment. So, Todd, when we talk about network resilience, what does that mean and why is it critical for business continuity?
It's a great question. Really, network resilience is the ability to withstand and recover from a disruption of service. So it's not if a network's going to go down, as we all know, it's when it goes down. And the question then becomes, does it take you 10 minutes to recover? Does it take you 10 hours or does it take you 10 days? So, you look at someone like Fastly that had an outage the other day, they recovered in an hour. So a global outage, they were able to recover in an hour. My guess is that they have some sort of remote access solution in place or they wouldn't have been able to do that. So it's very, very fundamental. We call it out-of-band management. It's very fundamental for business continuity because it really is the foundation of the business. The network is the business today. So if that network goes down, you can't transact with your customers. You can't communicate with your customers. We couldn't do this podcast if the network went down. And if it did, hopefully we can recover quickly to get back online. So
talk about network resilience, though. Is that the same as network redundancy, Brian?
Here's how I would summarize that. SD-WAN is a perfect example. I think Todd's going to touch on a little bit about, I'm going to talk to you about a little bit about how we're complementary to a lot of other technologies. But the example would be for SD-WAN. SD-WAN does a lot of complicated computations, thousands per second. And so it's a router at the end of the day. So now that the technology has progressed, SD-WAN, everything's moving to the edge. So when they have critical locations, what SD-WAN companies do is they recommend that you stack multiple routers at those critical locations so that if one router goes offline, the other one takes over. That to me is redundancy. What our product does is it gives you, so we have no moving parts, it's solid state. We have a cellular failover capability. We give them the ability to provision products. There's a lot of things that we do. So Todd talked about the traditional out of band, which is the remediate a problem when it occurs. We certainly do that. But then beyond that, we do smart out of band. There's a lot of other elements to that. So for us, no moving parts. We don't have to worry about a router locking up. So we're there and we're connected into a console port onto devices like Cisco and Juniper and Palo Alto. So if you look at routers, switches, and firewalls, those are going to be the three primary things that we're going to connect to. And for us, we're going to give them resilience and being able to get back to that, take over console access, and remediate the problem from wherever they are. And so that's how I would say the difference between resilience versus redundancy is.
Right. Well, and so to understand the product better, then, I mean, you mentioned the in-band and out-of-band. Todd, what's the difference between those two? And I guess, especially for our listeners today who have, a good understanding of this already, what's the difference between traditional out of band and smart out of band?
Yeah. In-band management is going over your production network. Out of band is going through a secondary network. We call it the management plane, the independent management plane. Out of band management has sort of grown up in terms of how we think of it. Our independent management plane today is 4G LTE. So we get into that box remotely and do it through the secondary Ethernet interface, for example, and that's our management lane. So that's very, very important because you don't want to manage your network with your network because that defeats the whole purpose of network resilience. So out of band management, people have been doing it for years, and the way they did it was with a POTS line. They would dial into the box. It was usually a Cisco terminal server. It was attached to other routers and switches, and they would get into the unit. But you're pretty limited in terms of what you could do with a POTS line. Like, for example, when we started doing cellular back in 2010, we actually pioneered it. That was really something that no one else was doing. And so now for the first time, we were able to actually communicate with devices, Internet of Things, if you will, remotely. And what I mean by that is now we could send SMS text messages to devices. We could get email alerts. We could get SNMP traps. You can't do any of that stuff with a POTS line. So that's very, very important. And because of that, there was more proactive monitoring, alerting, and remediation. So that's where we incorporated the smart into out of band, is because of the cellular interface.
Well, so let's talk about when a network fails. So Todd, I'm going to stay with you. I understand that OpenGear commissioned a study about network outages and found that improving network resilience was really the number one priority for nearly half, or 49% of the respondents, where nearly a third have lost more than $1 million in the past 12 months due to network outages. So what were the most eye-opening findings? And I guess, how do they highlight the importance of network resilience?
Yeah, it was a really good study, actually. If you look and kind of dive into some of the details, 30% of the 500 companies that we surveyed have lost like $1 million in revenue in the past year. So if you think about that, 30% of 500 is 150 companies. At $1 million each, that's $150 million. And these are just the companies that we talk to. So this is not a unique problem. This is a problem for every business. And if you think about it, a CEO spends a lot of money on routers and switches and storage and compute and all these things. But if his network isn't up, none of that matters. You know what I'm saying? So it's really, really critical for them to have a network resilience solution in place. We call it smart out of band, but that is really, really critical. And that came out in this study. The other thing that was interesting is 40% of the network outages took more than 1 day to resolve. So imagine being down for a day. Fastly was down an hour, and we were all asleep when it went down. It happened in the early AM. But being down a whole hour, that keeps CEOs up at night. They got to report, if they're a public company, they got to report, why their company didn't hit their numbers this past quarter. So it's important for them to have it. And then the other thing that came out of this was, one of the things you don't want to do during an outage is have to get in a car or a plane to go fix it. You want to do it remote. You want that secure remote access. And this study actually said that network engineers, one of the most common challenges for them in terms of remediation is having to travel to the site, trying to get there while this is all going on and the network's down, not being able to get there quick enough. So that was at 42%. So, a few things, nuggets there that came out of the study, again, prove that how important it is to have a network resilience solution in place.
I'll tell you, my husband works in IT, and when he would get that dreaded call in the middle of the night that he had to, we're in Dallas, and he would have to drive out to the data center in Fort Worth. And I'll tell you, enough months and years of that, and it does keep you up at night, and it just makes you sick to your stomach whenever that phone rings, because you're thinking, that's the call that I've been dreading.
So you can relate to this with your husband in the industry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, trying to solve that problem for IT professionals and CEOs, that's a real thing. So, when we talk about network resilience, let's discuss what that means for businesses, and then specifically channel sales. And So how does Open Gear's partner program really help partners grow their business? And I guess what challenges do you kind of talk to them about that a network resilient network can achieve?
Sure. That's a great question. And I can tell you, I have answered that question probably 1,000 times. So the good news is I know exactly how to answer it. And the better news is our product is tailored for many IT resellers. And so when I talk to Ingram staff about it, and I do sales trainings and whatnot, I talk to them about the unique product offering, so complementary to the Ciscos and Junipers and others, Palo Altos. So as we look at it, if you're selling these products, then there's a high likelihood that they need our product. And I also tell the resellers specifically as far as going out, we have a unique product offering, as we talked about. So we do smart out of band. We have a centralized management tool that lays over the top of it that gives them a view of what's connected and what the status is of it. We do fail over to cellular. So when something goes out, they have a 4G LTE connection to get back to it. And we do provisioning. So those are some of the things that we do that differentiate us from others. And if we look at NetOps automation and those types of things, so we're in the data center, we're at the edge, we do SD-WAN, we are cloud IoT. So we're a unique product offering for them. And I mentioned the complementary piece to that. So the other two pieces that I think are important are that we have dedicated resources to them. So on Todd's team, you have a regional sales manager and you have a sales engineer, and those people are talking to the end user in conjunction with the reseller and helping close that business. And then we also have, for the channel team, the team that I'm responsible for, we have channel managers across the country. And then in addition to that, we have a channel sales engineer. So our channel SE is one of the best in the business, and he's been in the industry for a long time and he understands it. So when he's talking to the SEs, the pre-sales engineers, those people know what out-of-band management is, and those people know how to speak to it intelligently. So that's the thing that really has helped us differentiate. We have a partner portal and we have a lot of content that's out there that can help our partners close the business. But I think our secret sauce is that we have people in place to help support them as well. So combination of those two things. And like I said, I tell people all the time, the biggest impediment to our success is awareness. And that's a really cool place to be because not too many companies can say that. So let's see, they don't know what out-of-band management is and they don't know who Open Gear is. And once we have that conversation, the opportunity is there. And so I'm confident in saying that because I've seen it proven over and over again. So that's the cool thing about working for the company that we work for.
Definitely. Well, it seems like it's pretty easy to be able to talk about network resilience for channel sales. So how do you maintain and grow those relationships, while talking about network resilience?
Yeah, sure. So with the partners, what we're trying to do is identify the pain points. And Todd and his team really have done a great job of that because we have some experts. And so as we look at, if you're hearing things like remote sites or branch build outs or refreshes, data center build outs, and you look at SD-WAN deployments, zero touch provisioning, those are the kind of things that we're looking for. If you're selling a lot of routers and switches and PDUs and firewalls, those are the kind of things that we're looking for. So to start the conversation, are you doing any of those things? And then asking the simple question is, what are you doing for out of band? And here's what I can tell you. We are the market leader for this space. So we have over 50% market share. And so margins are subjective, but I can tell you we have great margins. And what we're seeing is street prices on our products being 10 to 15% off MSRP. And with the partner discounts, there's some good margin to be had there. We have a deal registration program. And I mentioned the team that supports that too. So when you look at all of that, those are the kind of things that we're doing to start the conversation. And once we get to that, we got a team in place that can help them be as involved or as uninvolved as they want to be with it.
Well, Todd, coming back to you, how is Open Gear really helping with the work from anywhere environment, and how have you helped your customers adjust to this new world we live in?
Yeah, I think in a lot of different ways, our products really are essential to work from home. I mean, in a home environment, and we've helped our customers directly, and we've helped our customers indirectly. And what I mean by that is, just to start with, one example is we did a case study recently with Worldwide Technology, and they couldn't, during the pandemic, they're the largest Cisco reseller in the United States or North America. They weren't able to get into their building, in their advanced technology center, called the ATC. This ATC is where all the solution architects, sales engineers actually demonstrate their solutions, whether it's storage or SD-WAN, whatever it is. So since they couldn't get into the building, they actually got into the building using our product. They have about 75 to 100 of our units in these racks in this ATC. And they were actually able to log into the device through our user interface, get in and demonstrate the solution to their customers. Now, this is a $10 billion company that is using our product, and it became very, very essential to them to use so that they could sell stuff. You look at a company like, you're familiar with Netflix, Hulu, during the last 18 months, how many outages with these companies did we have during the pandemic? I can't think of any.
Right.
If we had one, they'd have been able to recover very quickly because, like I said, they're all customers of ours. So, another example would be like TikTok and Zoom, very heavily used during the last 18 months. Both of them actually ride on the cloud that I can't say this customer's name, but they ride on the same cloud of this customer. And they use our product to manage, to deploy the network, but also to manage it after it's been deployed. So, very, very critical to, Zoom was one of the hottest companies out there. And it became very, very important for us to be able to continue to do our jobs remotely. And then, another customer of ours is Comcast. How did we help them? Well, we made sure that their network was up so they could bring broadband to the neighborhoods at the far edge. And as you know, there was a huge increase in demand for people that were working from home. So not only do we help get these guys up and online and zero touch provision their routers and switches, but we also, after it's up, we actually help manage it so that they have that network resilience in the event of an outage.
Not only work from home, but school from home.
Yeah.
So we've seen a lot of changes in our work environments and our network needs. So as we start to wrap up this episode, we ask everybody the same question, and that's, where do you see technology going in the next year? And that can be anything from your specific corner of the world to your furthest reaching interests. So Brian, let me start with you.
I think just to echo what I said earlier, as we see these trends, remote network access, we're going to see that to continue to be important. And I think that's really the biggest thing. I know there's some technology trends that Todd can speak to that are above my pay grade, but I think as we see the network moving to the edge, there's more pain points, failure points. And when those places are there, that's where we come in.
Todd, how about you?
Yeah, there's probably a few areas that I see becoming more important. Cisco announced at Cisco Live, their virtual event, network as a service now. So I think that is going to pick up momentum in the near future. And I'll probably see other manufacturers start to pick up on that whole recurring revenue model. Bitcoin is really popular right now. And, how does Ingram transact with their partners in cryptocurrencies? How do end users transact with their partners in cryptocurrencies? That in the next 5 years could be something to think about. And then the other thing that I've been watching pretty closely is this whole idea of NIL, which in college athletics, it stands for name, image, and likeness. So they can now, put logos on their jerseys and they can actually start making money, the people that are good, obviously. So I look at this from a business standpoint. What is your digital currency? Yourself. You're doing a Zoom call, for example. It's a sales call. You got these 4 or 5 people on the call, and maybe I'm wearing an Ingram hat with a company logo on it to promote your business to the people I'm presenting to. So I think that's something that could get big as well in the next five years or so.
Interesting stuff. Well, I certainly appreciate your insights today. If any of our listeners, though, have more questions, how can they find out more about what we talked about today?
Sure. So we have an internal resource at Ingram Micro, and that's Mr. Michael Patino. So michael.patino@ingrammicro.com. You can also reach out to my team directly. That information is available on our website. So go to partners.opengear.com, get signed up for our partner portal, and let's go start making some money.
Brian and Todd, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Shelby. Pleasure.
You're welcome. Thank you, ma'am.
And thank you, listeners, for tuning in and subscribing to this episode of B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro. If you like this episode or have a question, please join the discussion on Twitter with the hashtag B2B Tech Talk. Until next time, I'm Shelby Skurhawk.
You've been listening to B2B Tech Talk with Ingram Micro. This episode was sponsored by Ingram Micro's Imagine Next. B2B Tech Talk is a joint production with Sweetfish Media and Ingram Micro. Ingram Micro production handled by Laura Burton and Christine Fan. To not miss an episode, subscribe today on your favorite podcast platform.